Well, Xero's new chief executive, Sukhinder Singh Cassidy, joined the accounting software company in February. Since then, the share price has surged more than 50% as Cassidy reset the strategy from a focus that was purely on subscriber growth into something a bit more balanced. Well, Cassidy's the former president of StubHub, an American ticket exchange company, and led the business while it was being taken over by Viagogo in 2020 for $4 billion. Ed Boyd caught up with Cassidy on the sidelines of the XeroCon conference while she was in Australia earlier this week.
XeroCon is where we bring all of our accountants and bookkeepers together, and we do it in multiple markets. And it really epitomizes, I think, Xero's relationship with accountants and bookkeepers, the importance this segment plays for us in reaching small businesses, and quite frankly, the community feeling that is Xero. I mean, it's really a place where we bring people together and they learn as much from each other as they do from Xero.
What's the vibe like in the room out there?
I would think of it as an anti-enterprise vibe. Okay. The best way I can describe it is I was at a photo shoot this morning and there was a disco ball behind me.
Right.
Well, suffice to say, it was for a pretty corporate outlet. And I said, I don't know if I may be the first ASX CEO to have a disco ball in my leadership profile.
What are small businesses telling you at the moment when you look through your software? What sort of pressures are they feeling? Because we know it's a high inflation economy right now.
Yeah, well, listen, we do something called XSBI, which is an insights-driven report once a quarter. And so that's just come in. This is a very timely question. Here's what we're seeing. First of all, interestingly, Australia on a relative basis is faring better than a lot of our other global markets, meaning it's one of the only markets in the world where sales, even when you take into account inflation, are still up. Elsewhere, in all our other markets, on a real dollars basis, small businesses have decreasing sales year over year, but not in Australia. We're also seeing everywhere, besides slowing sales growth, like I said, Australia is still up year over year, but less up than it was many years ago. We're seeing that in all markets, people are being paid later. Now, in Australia, that trend is pretty stable. I think they're paid about a week late, and that hasn't materially changed year over year. But when you look to New Zealand, on a real dollar basis, New Zealand is faring okay, but small businesses are reaping slightly less dollars of sales. They're also about a week late in payments, but it hasn't gotten worse. Other markets, we are seeing greater declines in year-over-year sales on an inflation-adjusted basis, and we're seeing days late increasing in terms of small businesses getting paid.
And those businesses that are under pressure, what sectors are we talking about? Is it mostly the retailers? Is it transport? Is it infrastructure?
I would say for right now, it's across the board. And as I said, what we really see is geographic differences rather than vertical differences.
Yeah, so Australia doing better than most of the other markets that you operate in?
That's right. Australia on a sales basis doing better because it's still net up year over year. On an inflation-adjusted basis, there are more sales. But again, sales growth slowing everywhere. It's just Australia is still a net positive year over year. Where every other market, in real dollar terms, small businesses have sold less year over year.
So are small businesses feeling pretty cautious right now with the way things are going?
I would say it's a very mixed and uncertain environment. Small businesses are managing their cash flows as carefully as ever. Now, the reason I say it's mixed is from a labor perspective. As you know, there's still labor shortages with a lot of small businesses, particularly in hospitality. So I think it's a very mixed environment, but I think mixed means cautious, careful, focused on productivity, and focused on making every dollar count.
And what would you say the biggest concerns are? Is it invoicing, being paid on time? Is that the number one thing businesses are talking about, or staff shortages?
I think the number one thing, again, across all markets would be getting paid on time. I think in New Zealand, we are seeing actually labor shortages, again, when we think about these market-by-market differences. And I think everywhere people are just dealing with, lower top-line growth.
Look, I know you've got some research out this week talking about artificial intelligence, but what are small businesses, what do they think of when they think of artificial intelligence?
Here again, the data is, on the one hand, it's positive in that they all, or majority say they want to take advantage of it. But what we've seen show up in our data is concern that innovation is moving ahead in artificial intelligence of ethical considerations and regulation. So you can see some cautiousness, which is, on the one hand, the majority say they intend to use it and take advantage of it, yet they would concede they are worried about the fact that innovation might outpace regulation. So that's one concern they have. And the second thing that's coming through in the data, in New Zealand as an example, we see increased paranoia about the use of data in AI. So once again, what small businesses are telling us is, please, yes, we want to take advantage of the technology, but be careful. Be careful with our data, and let's make sure this is done ethically.
And from Xero's view, what are you doing with AI right now?
Well, interestingly, and I think there's AI and there's Gen AI, and they're close cousins. Obviously, AI has long been in our DNA. If you think about our core products, many of them run on AI. Bank reconciliation, extraction of data on bank statements, the ability to put things in the right categories, our expenses product, almost every product, our analytics product where we forecast cash flow. All of those products take advantage of AI. That's great. When it comes to Gen AI, I think the way we think about it is it's a close cousin. And in some ways, it's a tool set, right, that can supercharge, the things AI can do for you by giving you answers, in the form of text, as opposed to just waiting for you to sort of have to search. So I think we're experimenting with Gen AI in a number of different areas. A simple example will be just using it in our guided setup for small businesses. Instead of, as you're onboarding to a product like Xero, which is all accounting, instead of just having you have to search for the answers, why can't you query and basically ask, and get answers in natural language on how you should onboard. That's an example of where we're experimenting. I think mostly we think of it's all about the utility for the customer.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sukhinder, you joined as Chief Executive in February. What attracted you to Xero?
It's remarkably simple. I always say you want to go do great work with great people and great businesses. So if you think about that, at a macro level, Xero is a power of the small business economy, which is a power of the global economy. We know that digitization of small businesses, in terms of the tools they use, while it's advanced in some categories, accounting still has a lot of room to grow. So you see these macro tailwinds. We also see that governments around the world will continue to ask small businesses to digitize. So when we talk about great businesses, we see kind of what I'd call macro addressable market, macro TAM, and tailwinds. Xero is also a resilient business, right? It has very, very sticky use cases for customers in times of good and in times of bad. It's got strong gross margins, so that business profile, really attractive. But that's actually not always enough, right? I always say you want to go to not just great businesses, you want to go work with great people. And at this stage in my career, I want to go where my values fit. And I think if you look at Xero as a brand, we started by talking about XeroCon. It's a welcoming, inclusive brand that values belonging and individual expression. It's a brand that values community. Those are the types of things that are pretty unique. When you want to go to work every day, you want to go to a place you fit.
Well, since you joined, the stock price is up 55%. So is that because you've done anything significantly changed to the strategy of the company?
I think the thing, well, first of all, you've got to give Xero and Xero's credit for the company that they built, that I was lucky enough to join.
Yeah,
That's
of course.
the most important thing. I think, though, in the last 6 months, one of the things we've been messaging to the market is our desire to be more focused, more measured in our returns, more dynamic in the allocation of our capital, and more customer-centric.
Sukhinder Singh Cassidy, Chief Executive of Xero, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.